Today we're taking the viral Dubai chocolate and turning it into a cake. It's rich in flavors from the pistachio cream to the chocolate ganache. Hi, you're watching Plating It with Wendy and welcome to our kitchen where we share with you recipes which impress with ease. Now let's get started. We're starting the recipe by first preparing the cake layers, and for that we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit while we prep the cake pans. I've got 3 9-inch cake pans here. I've melted a little butter and we're going to dab our pastry brush into it and we're going to brush it onto the sides of the cake pan. Now the butter is just going to act like a glue because we're going to be dusting on some cocoa powder on the sides of the cake pan. And we're going to brush a little bit of butter on the bottom as well. So now we're going to take a little bit of cocoa powder and dust it on the sides of the cake pan. Now when preparing a vanilla cake, we dust all-purpose flour. And when preparing a chocolate cake, I prefer putting cocoa powder because it's the same color as the cake. Trying to get it to the edge as much as I can. And once you've gone all around with the cocoa powder and you've got an even coating, you're going to turn the cake pan around and dust off any excess cocoa powder. So see how well it's been coated. And we're going to line the bottom of the cake pan with a parchment paper, which I had cut earlier. And we're going to do the same thing and line the other 2 cake pans as well. We're first going to start by making the chocolate cake. And this recipe calls for 1.5 cups of buttermilk. But I almost never have buttermilk in the house. So I've got 1.5 cups of milk in this jug. And to that we're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of white vinegar. We're going to give that a stir. And now we're going to keep it aside to do its thing while we mix up the dry ingredients. So to 3 cups of all-purpose flour, we're going to add 1.5 cups of cocoa powder. To that we're going to add the leveling agents, and for that we're going to go in with 1 tablespoon of baking soda and 1.5 teaspoon of baking powder. And to bring out all the flavors, we're going to go in with 1.5 teaspoon of salt. We're going to give that a quick whisk and blend all the dry ingredients together. We're also incorporating air into the dry ingredients by doing this, and it's going to give us a lighter, more fluffy cake. And it doesn't matter if you don't get everything at the bottom as well, because we are going to pass it through a sieve. Now we're going to pass this through a sieve, and this is going to help us remove any of the clumps that may be there in the cocoa powder. At the same time, we'll be incorporating some more air into the dry ingredients. Now we're going to put the rest. Now it's always advisable to sift when using cocoa powder because you don't want any of those clumps in your batter. See, and those little clumps that are there, we're just going to smash them down and pass them through the sieve. And now to the dry ingredients, we're going to add 2.5 cups of white granulated sugar. And once again, we're going to give it a whisk. To 1.5 cups of warm water, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of instant coffee powder. And coffee helps to enhance the flavor of chocolate. So we're first going to try and make a little well in the center. So we can pour in all the wet ingredients in that. So we're going to go in with 4 large eggs, and they're all at room temperature. And to that we're going to add 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. And now we're going to pour in the buttermilk that we made. And look how easy it is to make it at home. And now we're going to pour in the coffee and 2 teaspoons of a pure vanilla extract. And I'm just going to eyeball that here. We are going to go in with a hand mixer here, but I'm just giving it a light mix with the spatula so that the dry ingredients does not fly up into the air. Okay, now that's looking good, so we can go in with the hand mixer. Okay, now we're just going to give it a light mix with the mixer. This is such an easy recipe. Everything goes into one bowl. Just going to scrape down the sides first and the bottom. Want to make sure that all the dry ingredients gets well mixed with the wet. We're just going to give it one more mix. And now that we have a smooth batter, we're going to divide it among our 3 cake pans that we had prepped earlier and kept aside. We are going to be weighing the batter out into the cake pans so we have the cakes of equal weight. And I like to do this because then the baking time of all the cakes will be the same, because we're going to be putting them all into the oven at the same time to bake. We're going to pop them into our preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius, and we're going to bake them till a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. Now this should take approximately about 30 minutes. It's time to take the cakes out of the oven, and now we're going to keep them on a wire rack to cool completely before we take them out of the cake pans. We're going to be icing the cake with ganache, so we're going to bring 1 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream to a light simmer. And as soon as you see those little bubbles at the edge, you're going to take it off the heat. We're going to pour this hot cream into 3.5 cups of semi-sweet chocolate chips, and we're going to add 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. And now we're going to cover it up with a kitchen towel so that the warm cream helps the chocolate chips to melt. It's been about 5 minutes and the chocolate chips should have softened by now. So let's give it a mix and bring the ganache together. Oh yes, see that? When working it together, you don't want to stir it too quick because you don't want to incorporate any air bubbles into it. And doing it slowly is going to help us get a silky smooth ganache. It's best to use a spatula for doing this and avoid using a whisk. Now look at that. This is what you want, silky smooth. It's such a lovely sheen to it. And now we're going to cover this up with a plastic wrap. And you're going to make sure that the plastic wrap touches the surface of the chocolate so that it does not form any kind of a skin on the top. And we're going to place it in the refrigerator while we work on the pistachio filling. So we're going to go in with 250 grams of katafi or kanafe. We're going to chop that up into smaller bits first. And once we toast this with some butter, it's going to get that iconic Dubai chocolate crunch. So to a heated skillet, we're going to add 50 grams of butter. And to that, we're going to add the chopped kanafe. And now we're going to roast it till it gets crispy and golden. You want to constantly move it around so it does not get burnt. You want an even golden color to it. See, it's getting an even browning, and that's what we want. And now that the kanafe has turned crispy and we've got a lovely golden color, we're going to take it off the heat. And now we're going to empty it into a bowl. And now we're going to add the pistachio cream to it. And we're going to measure with our heart here. And now while it's still warm, we're going to add in the pistachio cream. You really want to get that pistachio flavor. And we're going to go in with 1 spoon of tahini. And now let's mix that up. Wow, look at that. You can tell how crunchy this is going to be. You can hear the sound while I mix. Now that's looking good. So now let's start layering up the cake. We're going to take one of the cakes and run our spatula around just to loosen it up on the sides. And now it should flip out easily. And using a serrated knife, we're going to level out the cake. It's going to take off this little muffin top that it's got. I've taken the ganache out of the fridge and see it has thickened up so well. So now we're going to start layering the cake. I'm applying a little bit of the ganache to the cake base so that when we put the first layer on, it sticks to the base and does not slide off. And now we're going to place the first layer on the board. And I made some simple syrup, which is basically sugar which I've stirred in water. And we're just going to put some down on the cake, and this is going to keep it nice and moist. We're going to put a thin layer of the ganache on the cake, and we're just going to spread it out evenly. Now this is going to act like a glue, and it's going to help to make the pistachio mixture stick onto it. Now we're going to take some of that ganache, and I've just put it into a piping bag, and we're going to create like a dam here before we put the pistachio kanafe filling in the center. And I'm keeping it a little away from the edge because once we put the next layer of cake on the top, with the weight, it's going to spread out and come to the edge. And now we're going to put half of that mixture in the center. And now we're going to move it around and spread it across the cake, making sure to get an even layer. Now we're going to place the second layer of the cake on the top. Now we're going to put on some of that sugar syrup once again on the top. We're just going to repeat the process actually. What we did on the bottom layer is what we're going to do on this layer as well. Once again, we're going to spread on a thin layer of the ganache. You want to keep this layer as thin as possible because you don't want to take away from the pistachio cream flavor. And now let's pipe on that ganache all around. And we're going to put the remaining of the pistachio kanafe filling now. I've actually left just a little bit of the kanafe filling to decorate the top of the cake. Okay, now we've got an even layer. So now we just have to put on the top layer of the cake. And now we're going to take the third layer and place it on the top. Just going to press it down a little bit so that it sticks to the bottom layer. And now once again, we're going to put a little bit of the sugar syrup on the top of it. And now to ice the cake, we're going to take the ganache We're just going to put it all over. So now we're just going to take our spatula and spread it across. Now we're going to put some on the sides as well. If you missed a spot, you don't have to worry about it because we're going to come back with the spatula to even it out. We're going to take the offset spatula. We're just going to flatten it out and spread it across. And to flatten the top, we're just going to pull in the edges. And now to decorate the top, we're going to put some of that kanafe filling that we had kept aside. We're going to put a little. You've got to spread that goodness. By putting this on the top, you're going to get a sneak peek of what's to come inside the cake. We're also going to put a few chopped pistachios on the top of that. Oh my goodness! Look at that! And now it's time to give our Dubai chocolate cake a taste. But before we do that, if you're new to my channel or haven't subscribed already and enjoy trying recipes that turn out right every time, you're at the right place. So go ahead, press that subscribe button, and while you're at it, if you hit the bell icon, you'll be the first to get notified every time I upload a new video. Okay, now let's give this cake a taste. I'm so excited, it's looking so delicious. Wow. I'm going to take all that pistachio cream and the chocolate ganache with the cake. Wow, this cake is so delicious. It's even better than the chocolate bar. I hope you give this recipe a try. So hop onto my website, platingitwithwendy.com. Or you can hit on the link in the description box below for the full written recipe. Thanks for watching. See you soon.